And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Very interesting program today. If you've got an older car that you're not trying to, sort of on the fence as whether or not to fix that car or get rid of it, I think you're going to like what you're going to hear here. On the hotline with me now is Mike Schlup, Managing Director of KSeal International. KSeal is the industry's premier coolant system stop leak, and Mike's been with KSeal for some 15 years, actually since it was first launched in the United Kingdom, and he's been closely involved with developing the U.S. market. Mike's also a car enthusiast and has been talking about cooling system problems for many years. In addition, he's been overseeing KSeal's research and development programs over the past 6 years at Brighton University Engineering Division. It's my pleasure to welcome Mike Schlup to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Mike, glad to have you in the house.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks, Bobby.
Let's get right into, first, different types of coolant leaks. Give us some information there.
Okay, fundamentally, it's when you're losing liquid out of the cooling system, but there are different places that can go from. The most common leak is going to be the radiator, and you get that classic puddle underneath the car there as you pull away, and then it's time to worry. But there are also leaks from the engine block. That could be a crack in the block. It could even be porosity in the block, a crack in the cylinder head. You've got the heater core leaking, water pump, particularly the casing on that, a variety of things. And sometimes the problem is you can't actually see where the leak is. You just know you have a leak. But all of these problems come together, and where it's going to hit you is in your wallet, usually.
Well, no doubt about that. And so with regard to KSeal, given that there are so many coolants on the market today, I mean, Mike, there's yellow and there's red and there's green, and, although color, as I understand, really doesn't matter. But how about the compatibility? Is there an issue with KSeal adding to the cooling system regarding the color of the coolant?
No, that's a very good question, Bobby, and certainly there has been in the past with different chemicals that have been used for stop leaks, in particular products with sodium silicate. You do have to be careful there. That reacts with the ethyl glycol, the common chemical in many coolants. Now, KSeal is, instead of using a liquid sodium silicate, it uses a ceramic microfiber. That means it's compatible and safe to use with all types of coolant or sometimes called antifreeze formulas. It really is a pour-and-go solution, just no need to worry about what may or may not already be in the system. It's a favorite as a result of emergency roadside recovery operations. They know they can use it without having to check what's in the system.
So, Mike, let's shift gears. Can the same product be used in the radiator leak that's also used in the cooling system leak, the block, the head, the heater core?
Well, yes, indeed. That was something very important when we developed KSeal. There are a number of different products on the market, one for radiators, one for blocks, maybe something different for head gaskets and so on. So with KSeal, we made sure that it was a multi-purpose coolant leak repair. So one product, one formula, suitable for all types of leaks, whether it's one in the radiator or whether it's in the block or the head gasket or the heater core, all hard parts of the system. And the important thing, or the important reason for that, I should say, is that then the customer doesn't have to worry about which product. Have I got the right formula for this problem? It's one product to seal all leaks in the cooling system.
We're talking with Mike Schlup, who is the Managing Director for KSeal. So, Mike, that then begs another question. How to apply? I mean, normally we're talking you just pour the KSeal into the radiator, but as you know, we have, with today's cars, we have the radiator reservoir that in some cases is part of the cooling system and it's pressurized. And then in other cars, you have just the jug or the reservoir itself that is not pressurized. So give us a 30,000-foot view of how you apply a KSeal to best stop the coolant leak.
Okay, well, the important thing is to get KSeal into the cooling system itself. You're absolutely right. There are reservoirs and different entry points into the cooling system. And sometimes when you add KSeal to that reservoir, it can just get stuck there, trapped, particularly if you're getting overpressurizing in the cooling system, pushing the coolant back out. So the trick there is to get around the reservoir, bypass that. There are various ways. You can drain a bit of the coolant, mix that with KSeal, add that back into the system. You can even take the top hose off the radiator, add the KSeal through there. If in doubt, get some advice on this, but it's pretty straightforward. But once the product, the KSeal, is inside the cooling system, it can actually flow around and reach the leak. So those are little tips for pressurizing systems, but generally it is very much just like topping up the coolant. Just shake out the product, pour it in, and away you go.
Great explanation. Another question that I have in my mind, is KSeal a permanent? I mean, how long should someone expect for this seal to stop the internal leak, or is it a permanent seal?
Yes, KSeal is designed with its ceramic fiber technology to not just make an emergency get-you-home repair, as in the sort of the style of the old-school rad stop leaks. The fibers will mesh together and actually cure within the crack or the hole in the wherever that may be in the cooling system to make a very strong repair. That repair will then last for many years, many more miles, and certainly until such time as you're ready to move on to the next vehicle, even if you have to drain the system down and add new coolant, then that's very important that the repair remains in place.
And after the KSeal is added to the cooling system, is it normal procedure to drive the automobile or to let it idle? How best to ensure that we get the best seal proper, and allow the KSeal product to do its best job?
Yes, indeed. When using KSeal, just start with the engine at idle. Now, if the engine is already warm, that's fine. You can add KSeal, but you've got to be careful there that the system may be under pressure.
Sure.
But it doesn't matter with a warm or a cold engine. Shake the KSeal up, pour it in, and then just let the engine idle, allowing the KSeal to flow around the cooling system. If you decide to go for a drive, don't go towing a big trailer up a hill and put the engine under a big load. That's just going to make it more difficult. So the best thing is just to leave it idling. KSeal will flow around, find the low pressure point, make a repair, and then you'll see immediately as the coolant levels stabilize that you've made a repair.
So in essence then, KSeal, when it flows throughout the system and sees an orifice, which is you mentioned low pressure point, it will squeeze into that orifice and solidify and seal that crack.
That's exactly right. A good way to describe it is if you, let's say, cut yourself, and as you bleed, immediately the body starts adding those repair particles that exist. They're just waiting there, ready to make a repair, and they will mesh together and stop the bleeding. And that's basically what KSeal does. It's having that inside the system. It will find that low pressure point, be naturally drawn to it, and patch that up with those clever little fibers, and job done. And it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Simply shake it up, pour it in, and let it do its work. I
got it. I want to shift gears one more time. I understand that you've overseen for several years at Brighton University Engineering Division the R&D for KSeal. Is there some standard? Is there some guideline that manufacturers of stop leaks fall under or go by?
Yes, there is. There's an ASTM standard called D3147. You can look it up on the internet, and that is the standard for coolant stop leak repair products. In a nutshell, that determines the size of the hole or the crack that a product must fix, and also the size of an aperture or passageway that a product should be able to flow through freely without causing any clogging. That's very important. So it's what it must fix and what it shouldn't block up.
Wow.
That's the standard with a number of other tests around it, and there's a whole test equipment that is designed to do this. So we gave that standard to Brighton University's Engineering Division. They built the test equipment, and they tested the product. And as we were expecting, it passed the standard. So KSeal will seal holes up to 0.6 of a millimeter and it will flow through a mesh of 0.85 of a millimeter. That means that the product will seal when it's meant to, and it won't clog even the narrowest passageways within a cooling system. There are other products out there that meet this standard, but I'm proud to say that KSeal is the only product that's been independently university tested to actually comply with the ASTM standard.
And one final question, is KSeal the same product and used for like large industrial vehicles and RVs and in addition to passenger cars, tractor trailers and diesel engines?
Absolutely, yeah. KSeal is suitable for any water-cooled engine. So it's successfully sealed leaks on small motorcycle engines or little outboard engines on boats. Obviously, cars, by far the most common engine out there on the roads. And a standard bottle of KSeal will seal a leak in a cooling system of a car, an SUV, or a light truck. There is a heavy-duty version for large trucks, tractors, and so on. And in fact, we've even sealed leaks on diesel locomotives and also the engine on a cruise ship, which was, we were pretty pleased with that.
I imagine so. That's very interesting, because when you're out on a cruise ship, you can't pull over to the side of the road and repair a leak. That's for sure.
It's not the easiest job, no.
Mike Schlup, who is the managing director for KSeal, Mike, and also a very interesting fellow you are, and I appreciate your time. And I just have to say that with all of the cars that come through our car clinic service shop, and all the cars that are worth a lot to the owner but not worth that much on the market, when you're facing a head gasket repair and spending a couple $1,000 versus adding a stop leak product, then there's nothing to do but, of course, to try the KSeal. It's worked for us, and I'm sure it worked for a lot of our car clinic listeners and viewers. Mike, I want to thank you. It's been a pleasure to get to know you, and I hope that one day when you're in the States, you'll come and join us and answer questions from our callers here on Car Clinic. Again, thank you so much for joining us today on Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thank you very much, Bobby. It's been a pleasure.